Hello and welcome back. My name is Brittany Sullivan with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. During today's session, we would love to hear from you, so please submit your questions and comments in the Q&A box on your screen. Following each session, we have set aside time for our speakers to weigh in on your questions. Thank you again for joining us. Now let's get started. Without further ado, I would love to introduce our panel moderator, Monica Shelchek, Head of Global FP&A at Cartesian Therapeutics. We are excited to have Monica and our panelists with us for a discussion titled The Future of FP&A, Leveraging AI and Automation for Smarter, Faster Decisions. Welcome, Monica, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Brittany. We are so excited to be here and talk about FP&A and AI, which is a very hot topic now for all of us. I would like to introduce our panel's members here, Valker and Dipti. Valker, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. Hey guys, Valkyr here. I'm VP of Corporate Finance at Bahamar, an amazing resort in the Bahamas, a $4 billion investment with 5,000 employees, representing 10% of the GDP of the island. So it's a pretty big operation that we have there. Being in the hospitality for the last 25 years of my life, raised and born, born and raised in hospitality. So among other responsibilities of a normal operation, I'm also responsible to bring new technologies to Bahamar. We have over 40 processes being automated there using RPAs, in the verge of implementing our first autonomous department for income audit. And I'm also part of the group called Spark AI, a group of people, leading people in the AI industry trying to push AI solutions here in the US. It's a bunch of scholars, and I'm representing the service industry for the corporate world. So thank you very much to be here with us. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Dipti. Hopefully you enjoy this session.
Dipti?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dipti Arora. I'm a finance executive in tech. And in my current role, I'm VP of Finance of a late-stage startup called Circle CI. Circle CI is in the DevOps space, and we're Series F and venture-backed. I head the FP&A team, so obviously this is a very great discussion for me to be a part of, and we've been leveraging a lot of AI within our FP&A teams at Circle CI. So I'm very excited to be here. I'm based out of the Bay Area and California.
Excellent. Thank you both for joining me today. And so we start with our first question. So what are your thoughts about AI transforming the forecasting and planning in FP&A? Can you share with us any specific examples, how your organization is using AI, how you are using predictive analytics? Dipti, could you go first?
Yeah, I mean, AI is completely reinventing the FP&A and the forecasting space, right? And we're having to rethink the way we do our daily work, which is great because it's enabling FP&A teams to move much faster than we did in the past. So for example, we're using AI at my team every day to do various things. And I'd like to give an example of some of those tasks. Firstly, we're using it for data analysis. So you can put in different data sets within any tool like ChatGPT, or we use Claude, which is Anthropic's AI assistant. And you can use that to analyze the data sets, and you can also use it to correlate it with external data points, right, and merge that into your data sets. This not only helps with analysis, but it also helps with pattern recognition that may be harder for people to do by themselves for more complex data sets and a lot of data and maybe different data sets. So it makes it much easier to do all of that. The second area we've been leveraging this is scenario modeling. So you can do this at scale with AI, right? You're able to run many what-if scenarios instantly rather than spending a lot of time on doing this manually and doing one version at a time. We're also using it for tasks where maybe FP&A teams traditionally do not have strengths in, like writing tasks, giving written updates, weekly updates, things like that, and also for pulling together presentations. So we've been leveraging a lot of AI to make our presentations automated, and even doing ad hoc presentations. It's made it a lot easier. So some of the tangible outcomes that we've been seeing, which I think maybe it's obvious that you'd see this if you're leveraging AI, is one, we're we're spending a lot less time on manual tasks, manual data consolidation, and manual reporting. As a result, my team's increasing their strategic, the amount of time they're spending on strategic tasks. And they're able to spend more time on like kind of on the business partnering and the partnership, and also giving more insights on the analysis rather than actually data consolidation and data manipulation. We've also seen improvements in our forecast accuracy because we're leveraging this for our revenue forecasting and also across the board for various different forecasts. So we've seen an improvement in our forecast accuracy. And then we're also seeing that we can give real-time decision-making support rather than having a delayed turnaround time with different tasks and different decisions required for the business or data points required to be given for the business. So we're definitely having a faster turnaround time and real-time decision-making support versus what we've seen in the past.
That's excellent. A follow-up question for you. How are you? That's awesome, right? But like the challenge for some companies or some FP&A team will be the data, right? That comes to you for analysis. If you don't, AI sometimes it's not doing very well if you don't have the same data sets for analysis. How are you dealing with that? Is everything clean, or AI is able to actually understand what you are providing?
Yeah, the AI is actually pretty good. It can understand what you're providing, and you can use the AI if you need the data set to be in a particular way. You can use the AI also to clean up the data set. So sometimes we do some amount of data manipulation with AI itself. Like you can use Google's version to do. We use a lot of G Sheets. We'll use that maybe to do some level of cleanup of the data before we even send it for analysis. You can also it's also good at like if you put in different data sets, like the reason that we're able to do this more effectively is like you can upload, for example, multiple CSV files and have it like cross-read those as well. So I think that's been really helpful. So it doesn't require you maybe to like merge those data sets or like require the data to be super clean for you to for it to be able to analyze it. So we've kind of done both. We're using the AI itself to do the data cleanup, but it's also able to analyze data sets that may not be as clean as maybe what you would require to entirely like lay it out and analyze.
That's excellent. That's a huge improvement overall, I believe, from the first conversations that we had about AI, that it is great, but cannot really read if that's not clean data. Valkir, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's very insightful what DT was saying, right? So this is kind of how you use AI helping, making those predictions and creating scenarios. For us also, right, it helped us to identify very specific issues. For example, we just implemented a new tool that actually help us to identify what is going to be the workforce for next week, right? And then you say, well, what that means, right? What that represents in terms of FP&A. So with that, because here's the thing, our job is also to create value and find opportunities. So for our spa department, after this implementation and starting to understand the metrics of the spa with the help of these AI tools, we were able actually to understand precisely what was going on there. So before this analysis that we were doing, we didn't know very well what was happening in that department. Bahamar, it's a big, huge environment with tons of departments, millions of transactions. So now with AI, we can actually analyze 100% of the transactions, something that was not possible before. We always doing a portion of it and then based on materiality and things like that. So here's what happened, right? Knowing exactly how many hours we needed for therapists based on the sales, right? We were able to actually see that something was not matching. So for example, we had all these hours worked, but they were not being reflected in the revenues. So we started to analyze what was happening, and then we actually found out that our cancellation window was too short. We were giving our guests 4 hours to cancel a treatment, right? When normally is 24 hours. So with AI, you can actually go to that granular type of analysis, creating real value. we were losing $10,000 every single week in cancellation because we were not able to collect those money. But now with the AI that provide these spotlights everywhere, and this is the amazing thing, right? It provides you these spotlights in really shadow areas. So now we were able to analyze, reinforce the SOPs, make new cancellation policies, and now at least we are not losing that amount of money. And our labor, it's actually aligning with the revenues. Sometimes you have these possibilities, but with AI, actually, we can actually go to the granular level and see exactly what is going on.
That's excellent. Do you have any specific tools that you are thinking of that you are using, or do you have customized programs, right? AI tools that was specifically developed for you?
Yeah, I consider that Baha Mar today is in this journey in the mill, right? We already went through and we implemented a lot of RPAs that extract data and clean data and put everything in a repository. We have a repository of information. We build like our SQL with curated data, governed. We already walked a lot this path. It's been the last 7 years that we are building our foundations, right? And then recently we brought another AI solution, which is called Unifocus, specifically for labor management, which provides a lot of insights, because what we are able to do now is ingest all these different key business indicators, right? All these different metrics and drivers, and then we can actually predict how many hours we will need by associate for next week. This is another level of possibilities here, that we actually ingest volumes, and based on those volumes, you say how many therapists, how many servers, how many people you need there. So it's a very impressive world, right? And all this, once it's kind of behind or previous steps from the FP&A side, but that's important because that's also makes sure that our team is building all these explanations and modeling those scenarios on actual reality that is happening at the granular level. So what I'm seeing here, it's a merge of these two big areas, right? Foundation data with actually scenario planning. So imagine that that's kind of where we are at this point at Baha Mar. Our FP&A associates, right? They can actually see the granular level of all this analysis and build more robust models.
It's excellent. Yeah, that's kind of like leads us to the next one, next thought here, right? Like, so you already built some of those tools, right? You implemented some of them, the same you, Dipti. I was just thinking, right, like, so during the implementation phase, especially with AI, right, the thoughts are that there will be challenges for various reasons, but also, right, we will see resistance because everything new, right, has some challenges, and also different teams that might be FP&A, that might be business teams. They might be seeing a value, right, but they might be just resisting the change because they don't know what to expect. So, what are your guys' thoughts about implementing AI? How, from your experience, how can what worked best and what didn't?
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in. I think the biggest hurdle for us has actually been really carving out the time and bandwidth to do it, because the people who are doing their daily jobs are the ones who are also having to like carve out the time to like figure out how to leverage the AI. So I think the bandwidth's been the biggest thing there. So I think they're employing like some outside help has been helpful in the sense that, at least the current teams can still continue to do what they need to do. I think some of the other challenges that we've seen is really like, how does the team like rethink the way we do work, right? Because it requires them to basically stop the way that they were doing it and then rethink and redesign that, because the teams that are the boots on the ground are required to give the input on how this thing needs to be redesigned and help with that being coming up to speed, right? So I think helping there with like really getting the teams to open up their mind about like how you can do this differently with AI, has been helpful. And I think probably the last hurdle we've seen is like, FP&A teams are generally not that technical. And are you able to do this without like having the employing additional technical skill set to set it up? Because some of the things that we're now exploring to do, for example, like trying to set up agentic flows to automate work, it actually does require either the person to get like an FP&A person to get up to speed with like how to technically set some of this stuff up, or then you leverage outside help with like and resources to help do some of these things. So I think that's been the other sort of hurdle is like, should we like try to get the team up to speed with the bandwidth challenge now to like do this themselves, or should we then leverage like outside help to do this? So I think that's where we've kind of seen those are some of the challenges that we've had, and in some areas we've leveraged technical resources either within the company or outside help to both alleviate the bandwidth issue and also the technical skill sets issue to like help the teams to like set up these workflows.
Yeah, and the more let's say that these tools get more and more compliant and accurate, right? The less is going to be the human intervention on trying to put these reports together, and that's kind of where we want to be, right? So resistance comes especially when you have a lot of talents putting data together. So those are the areas that we really need to be very careful, and then there is a lot of reskilling, upskilling those talents. So for example, if you have a bunch of data entry or entry level analysts that are their only job is clean data and putting data together, those are the positions that you need to be really, really careful. You really need to move the needle in terms of knowledge. Because I always tell people, hold your horses on firing people, right? You have the talent. It's take too long for you to have them there. So now make sure that you have all these tasks being done by AI. You are doing all these things and real skill, right? Upskills all those talents because they already know the business. So there's a lot of analysis in the market and a lot of studies that is saying that there is going to be a disruption. A lot of jobs will be for sure, let's say, um, not eliminated, but the tasks that they are doing will be replaced by this type of intelligent tools. So you need to be very careful on making sure that these talents are being prepared for the next level, which is where value are being created. Finding that cancellation policies of 4 hours and making 24, and then measuring how much that is it's getting back to the company. And then examples like these are all over. So I always tell people, and it's my team as well, imagine the amount of things that you can do when you just put your nose above water, right? Right now, we are always, trying to figure out things, and there is plenty of studies that says that the majority of the team spend maybe 80% of their time just cleaning data and make sense of data so they can start to analyze. So now all this time is getting back to us. So it's very important for you to have strategies on how to use those times.
How do you deal with with something that Dipti just mentioned, which is that the talent, but talent and also skill set, right? The technical skill set. So, was your approach with implementation to actually outsource the implementation, or did you have in-house talent that you were able to utilize?
No. So that's the very challenging, and we felt that in our skin and bone, right? So when you try to automate something that is already in motion, and it's a big mistake, right? Trying to automate something that is wrong, you're just gonna perpetuate the wrong forever. So you really need help. And then if your team is already swamped with their daily tasks, they should be, you bring developers or consultants that can really help you move the needle. At this point, we have a lot of talents out there that can help you really accomplish your dream. So they can actually assess what you're doing and see if there is a better way to do it, which is always the case. And of course, don't forget about the team. So the buying needs to be there. So how can you make sure that the people are not resistant when you participate in them in the process without harming their daily job, right? If you are pulling a talent out of the way and you still request them to make that report and make sure that they are doing all these tasks is very complicated, just overwhelming. So you need to know when to bring them, right, to get that buy-in and get their inputs. But always, depending on the size of the company, of course, try to bring consultants to help you out.
That makes sense. There's just you are totally right. There's just so much talent on the market, right? And then also with many tools and implementations that we have, we are often lucky to get consultants who are able to show us, right, like what is the best way of doing it. Amazing. That's great. Yeah, that's in my place we're using probably we have similar situations, right? So understanding how, but probably like because it's a smaller biotech, right? So what we are facing is that sometimes the data set that we have is not is challenging, right? And then also we're building the company, so a lot of things didn't exist before I came on board. So even understanding the data sets, ERP, and how this fits into financial planning models, it has been a challenge. But I feel like we're getting finally to the place that we can automate different things and then improve on. So that sounds exciting. Thinking about the streamlining of the automations, right, and reporting cycles. What are your thoughts about reporting cycles? How can we free up the time? And what should we focus on? What would be the most strategic ways to focus on? Dipti, would you like to go first?
I think this is where like AI can play a huge role with like freeing up time for the teams to focus on more strategic work, right? But you have to, like we were saying, you have to invest the time up front to be able to set these things up so that eventually the team can get into a place where they're not having to do this manual work. So I think it's a lot of like, one, as leaders of the team, are we setting them up for success? Are we getting the help that's needed to be able to set those work streams up ahead? And then are we like reskilling our existing team to be able to use the AI and understanding how to use the AI? I mean, at my org, we've done a lot of like trying to push people to use it in their everyday work. And my team's been pretty good about like, okay, can we carve out time? Like we did this thing where we're like, okay, every Friday, like in the afternoon, we're going to set out a couple of hours where everybody's just going to experiment with AI. And I think things like that, just helping them carve out the time to do it, has really helped with like adoption on a day-to-day basis. So, I mean, for the bigger things like setting up a lot of automated workflows, we've done the work. We've like leveraged outside help to try and set these things up. But like the adoption of using it on a daily basis. So, like I was saying, we use Claude at all across our company for AI for different things. Using that to propel or augment your work, that doesn't come naturally to people who've been in the workforce for a while, like in my team, right? So carving out that time and giving them that time and space to experiment with it has been really, really helpful. So for example, like one of the things that we ended up doing was, you can do this in ChatGPT as well, right? Like you can create like a project and upload information into it and then let people query. You can give people access to this project where they can query stuff. So we did this thing where we uploaded all of our like monthly reports and forecasts into it, so that people can use it as a tool to query metrics. Otherwise, they don't want to always log into, for forecasting, they don't want to always log into our forecasting tool to like look at where a particular metric may be landing in terms of forecasting, right? So this has been helpful, for example, like to give other people access to the data. We use this inside of the project and gave people access to this project where they can just query what we've already uploaded for each of the months to like as a chat bot to like query financial information. So I think it's been simple things like that that maybe even helped free up my team's bandwidth, because otherwise there's a lot of back and forth with cross-functional teams, like asking a lot of questions about stuff, right? Like, hey, what's this particular thing? What's my budget for this thing? Or what was your forecast for this particular thing? So I think this, for example, creating this example that I gave of the chat bot with like uploading the financials of the forecast where people can query it is a simple thing and has helped helped to reduce some of like the back and forth with business partners where they were maybe asking simple questions of my team. So I think it's been a lot of, how can we like free up some of the smaller tasks which we've had to like take on our own, but then for the bigger systems, automation and implementation, we've had to employ outside help.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that's like this, like we talk about it, right? The small things really take a lot of time, from the data cleanup to, right? Even the other parts, like even writing emails, right? Or like monthly reports. I found that automating that, right? Creating some type of a dashboard, but then also automating that, like how much time we spend on actually thinking how to present this information that will not be really financial, but it will be actually driver based, and utilizing ChatGPT even for that, right? It's very simple, but it helps, right? Just saves time. Valker, your thoughts additionally, what you think, like what are the biggest thing that you guys save time? You have so many great examples, right? But anything else?
Yeah, no, for sure. So these tools are really good finding patterns, right? So depending on how rigid is your company, because remember, you could have small, medium companies that they use heavily Excel to create all these different reports. And then you have all these legacy systems in big companies, like Hyperion, all these different FP&A tools. They rely on accounting data or source system data. So depending on what's your scenario, that's where you need to make sure that you are using those systems properly. So for example, at Bahamar, we use Hyperion, which is very rigid, right? So you can't do much. It feeds from your account system. So there's a lot of restrictions there, right? At least it's accurate, right? It's all adjusted, it's all good, but it's not all. And then you have some sort of trial from Hyperion to connect with the source systems, but also sometimes it's a simple mistake, for example, that happened in restaurants when you put the room number in the cover field. So instead of saying 5 people, right, it's 10,000, right? Because the room is 10,000, for example. So how can you capture those things? So it's very dangerous as well. So the way that we are trying to envision is kind of, okay, what is this, in our case, what is the step prior to get to the FP&A system, right? So how can we have clean data, curated, governed, so by the time that it gets to the Hyperion system, that everything is okay there. All our commentary, all our variances, everything is get inside of Hyperion. So because of this rigid situation, the approach that Bahamar took is actually, let's make sure that we have all these guardrails and walls protecting the data that is going to be in the FP&A side of it. So by the time it's there, there's no question. And then we are all assessing as well, because again, it's a very interesting environment, right? It's regulated like how many other companies. How can we introduce the bot concept of the departments, asking those questions? How did you build this forecast, right? What is the drivers, this, that, and all these things? So this is something that we are exploring as well on how to do it in a so huge environment like Bahamar.
That's excellent. That it's so that's really good. And the other part, what I'm thinking is like, right, like the ability, which you are all describing, but also the ability to have access to information sooner, right? Because during the accounting close, throughout, we might have some additional information that we could potentially use, right? Before even the month is closed, invoices, right? Payments or potential preview to the revenue. So if we can potentially use AI, right, to be able to pull this data ahead of time, just not on the 15th, 10th, or 5th, right? I don't know how lucky we are when our accounting team actually close the month, right? Then that would be super. That's amazing, right? So I would also add to that being able to utilize AI for the preview to the final month value. Also, it is a huge value added.
Yeah, and I know, Monica, you had kind of touched on this, but like for me personally, And finance, I've found huge benefit from AI, just using different AI tools for like the non-data tasks. Like you were saying, email writing, like for example, we have like this weekly update that we need to send from like each of our teams. I use AI to do that. It's probably reduced it by like half the time that it took me to do that. I use it very frequently actually to preview like emails that I can do a sloppy job of writing an initial version of an email, put it in AI and be like, make it better for me. And then like I get like a version that's probably 5x better than what I initially wrote. So like I can like spend less time on doing some of these tasks. And as mentioned before, like the presentation part, like it significantly reduced the amount of time that it took us to like pull together presentations. The other area which I also personally use it for is like meetings, taking meeting notes. So I've been leveraging AI a lot to like, I'll just add it, like have it open in my meeting, and I'm happy to share names of tools as well at the end of it. Have it open in my meeting. It like takes all the notes. And by the end, I have a summary of like the takeaways and whatnot, which has been like game changing for like just sharing out stuff and be like, hey, these are the key takeaways, especially if I was leading the meeting. Like I don't need to then like write up something later because I basically have something that's done right at the end of the meeting already. I can send that out to my team.
It's so fantastic, right? And this
Yeah.
brings us back to the old days when you had all these different executives, right, with their let's say assistants, right, taking notes and making all these things, because that's kind of what AI is providing us. It's like I call it AI as the big uh, normalizer, right? That provides these opportunities, because now, for example, the tool that I use is called Claude. It's a little microphone that you can, you put in the table and records everybody. It understands every single different perspectives, and then I use ChatGPT to summarize, create map minds, and things like that. So today we have this opportunity, and we should be using and leveraging those, right? Because it really enhance productivity. So it's amazing.
No, that's amazing. So that's exactly right what it is. I was just thinking about my last week, right? We had tons of executive budget reviews, right, ahead of our budget cycle. And I was thinking I will be able to use, I don't know, a tool that I had, right, for notes taking, and I was presenting, right? So it is really hard to actually present, right, at the same time, memorize everything that is being talked, and then, or alternatively, I can write in my notebook, right? Because I have my screen already filled with my presentation, but then taking those notes from your notebook and actually transcribing it, right? You don't have time. There is no executive assistant to help with it. Yeah, so please share your favorite note-taking tools, because we all probably who are attending this meeting today would like to use them. What works the best for you?
Yes.
I've been using Granola AI a lot, so you can just add it to the meeting, and it doesn't like, the good thing about it is like a lot of the other AI assistants that join virtual meetings, they normally ask for permission. This one doesn't. It just takes the notes on the side, like takes a good if you want a detailed transcript of exactly what everybody said and want to put it in a different tool, you can also do that. But it also does a pretty good job itself of like giving a summary. So that's been like very, very helpful, especially for like summarizing key takeaways or having my own notes for the meetings, or even these weekly updates that I have to send. It's been like game changing for that, because I just basically take all the relevant meetings that happen throughout the week, put it into like AI, and then like say, hey, create like my update, and I get a pretty good first version of an update. Yeah.
Walter, what works for you?
Yeah, the one that I love to use, because it gives me flexibility to move around, especially, for example, when I go to events or symposiums, and then you have all these scholars talking maybe in monotone, so I get easily distracted, or maybe because you need like to reply in an email. So I have this, hanging in my chest. It's a little microphone. It's the name is Claude, PLAUD, Claude AI, and then it's fantastic. It records 42 languages and transcribe with whatever language you want. So it creates the transcripts. It's like all the tools are similar, right? In particular, this one I love because I can bring everywhere.
That's excellent, right? Like just something that we never thought about, right?
Just
Like
remember to tell people that they are being recorded, so you don't get in trouble.
Yes. Yes, that reminds me, not naming names, but the headphones that can translate different languages, right? So I have not bought them yet, but I'm actually thinking maybe for the holidays. No, that's amazing. So, but I was just thinking how we were talking about different tools that we are using, right? But do we have our IT department also asking us, hey, what is that security that comes with it, right? So just I was thinking about another way of looking, just like what are you guys' thoughts about the data quality, governance with the implementation, transparency? You just mentioned, right, like that people make sure that you let people know that they are being recorded, and then relying on AI in generally.
So remember, this is very interesting because it depends on the maturity of your journey with AI, also the size of your company. We are in a very protective type of environment. We are not even allowed to use certain tools, right? So how can you do it? So the way that we were able to kind of use the AI tools was to build our repository. So what we did is like we export all these different source systems, right? The relevant data into our repository. It's a SQL server. It could be cloud, AWS, whatever you decide. But it's where we make the governance happening, right? So we have specific fields that are encrypted. We block certain columns to coming in because potentially has sensitive data. And then we built all of our reports and our intelligence on that curated SQL server. This is kind of how, in very high regulated environment, I recommend you to use those tools. So by the time that the AI tool comes to, put those queries, the data is already clean, governed, and secure.
Okay, so you have like a closed environment, right? That you are using, right?
And remember, hospitality is a very messy industry. We have all these siloed applications. So to fix all this craziness that happen in the side, we use a bunch of RPAs and automation tools to export data to our SQL server, our data lake that is curated. It's like a curated data lake, right? From where our other tools can feed and create insights and analysis.
Yep. Deepchi, what are you guys doing?
I mean, we've come up with a pretty extensive framework on the IT and procurement side for any AI tooling. So any tools that we end up using need to be vetted and made sure that from a data security compliance standpoint, they're like good. A lot of these AI tools obviously offer free versions, but I wouldn't recommend as being in FP&A, like do not put like your financial information out there in like the free versions. You need to make sure that there's some kind of compliance and vetting done of the vendor before you start to use it for financial data purposes, right? So we have we have this whole vetting process of like the vendor getting approved and going through like the IT and security compliance before we're able to use it. And once that's done, then we're able to roll it out within the teams to use it across the board. So we've done that for all of the AI tooling that we're leveraging. And if there's new AI tooling that we want to use, there's been times where I'll suggest it and be like, hey, can we get this through this process to make sure it's good to use and for sure to use before we start using it. So we've done that for new AI tooling that we want to use within our teams as well. But I'd say definitely do like the enterprise version. Like don't go and start putting financial information into like their free versions. You go for the enterprise version, make sure it's vetted and tied off by your like IT teams IT and security teams before you start to use the tooling.
Yeah, that's extremely important, right? Because like we have this ability to get access, right, to free ChatGPT, right, or whatever it is. So we do not just like making clear we are not encouraging dropping financial data into those, right, and then use them for analysis.
Yeah, exactly.
We all have our own right enterprise version, or alternatively, right, if you want to quickly help with email, whatever it is, use it, but do not put anything that will specifically identify your company, right?
Yeah.
Or just something very general. But that's, yes, like that will be, yes. The IT department will not love that. Or everybody else. Excellent. So with this one, right? Like, what are your thoughts about future, right? Because we have like Walter, you talk about possibly about your teams, right? About individuals who might be just dedicated to a data entry, right? And now deploying AI tool. How do you guys how we are thinking about the future FP&A mindset? Like, what comes to my mind is that that AI and FP&A need to work very closely together. Everybody has its function, right? And it is like with any technology, right? We have to acknowledge that technology exists and figure out how we can work together. But FP&A can drive change and actually can do it much quicker, where can rely on the data that will be available and already analyzed ahead of time.
So the interesting thing, right, being part of this Spark AI, I can bring what the academia is
Yeah.
talking about the future, right? So the future, it's like there is this span of 5 years. And right now we are in the stage that they call version 3 of agentic AI, which agents uh, kind of in the loop making some decisions. And then you're going to have version 4 and version 5. So those two versions that they're already working in the academia means that these agents actually will make certain decisions, all depending on your guardrails. So if there is something that I can tell everybody here, it's make sure that you have all your SOPs, all your in the data world they call the semantics and ontology, which simple terms is your dictionary of concepts and the correlation and mapping tables. Really is spot on. Those are the ones that creating the connections and the data cleanliness and all these things. And your SOPs, it's very important because those agents, they can actually read what is in those documents. It's very interesting because those agents are mimicking actual human, yeah. So they have a knowledge, and then there is a lot of nuances that you can do it. Like for example, hey, every time that you're gonna take an action, please read the SOPs first, and whatever is different, you learn from it. So that's kind of the looping of learning, keep going and helping. So all these three stages of automations is already happening, is already there. So it's for us to take advantage. So future is pretty defined, but there is something very interesting that is happening right now. There is a recent study that came from MIT that told 95% of all AI initiatives are failing their proof of concept, right? Or their pilots. Um, so of course, this is just a picture of what is happening right now, and then everybody, the market is sometimes they go crazy, but we should take this as a good thing, right? Before you get it right, it's gonna get wrong a lot of times. So that's where you use to see where is failing, so you can keep adjusting and then push it forward. One concept that is very, very, let's say, complicate in this AI world, it's called the drifting effect and the hallucinations, right? So hallucination is because you don't have your guardrails. So AI is always trying to pleasing you. So be careful, right? Guardrails, SOPs, ontologies, and semantics. That you need to have everything very well defined. And drifting is, for some reason, those mapping tables are not being updated automatically. So the modules start to drift a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. So 6 months from now, is providing concepts that doesn't make any sense. So those are the things that you need to be very careful. And then this failing that's happening today, we should take it as a good thing, right? We are learning where these things should be moving instead of just getting mad or sad.
Yeah, I know, Monica, you were touching on like how does this like change the skill sets, like what's required in the future. I mean, I think for the future, everyone's going to need to know how to leverage AI to propel their work. And the days where like we had a data, like an entry level financial analyst, maybe was spending most of their time on like data cleansing and massaging and consolidation work. think those days are gone. That entry-level analyst now needs to know how to leverage the AI to do that work and is not going to be doing that work when they join a corporate FP&A team, right? So the way, the nature, especially at the entry level, has changed. You need to know how to use the AI to do the work, so they're doing the review and more of the strategic work. But also, I think for the rest of us, I mean, the AI is definitely there to augment our work. It's not there to replace it, right? So I'd like to think of the AI as an intern. It's a very enthusiastic intern. It follows the instructions that you give it, and it gives you a first pass of something, which is good, but maybe will require more finessing to it. We'll need review, and you'll need to refine it because it's not very experienced, right? So you'll probably have to give it feedback multiple times, and you'll have some cycles of back and forth to where you eventually get to the end result that you need. So it's there like to augment you, but like you gotta just think of it right now as as an intern that's helping you out here. And it'll probably get better over time. Like Walker was saying, it's changing every day. Like the pace of change with the AI is exponential, and the tools are evolving like every few weeks and couple of months. Like you're seeing new things come out, new functionality come out. So that's definitely, the pace of change is very quick. So it'll get better over time. But I think that's where we are right
So there is Dipti, there is this way for you to test if AI is really replacing us, right? So every time that something is wrong in the report, you just say, well, this was the agent, and see the reaction. If you still have your job, then
Yeah.
so then they will put the blame in the agent. If you lose your job, so they're saying, hey, I don't care about agents, you are the one that is telling me these numbers, right? Nobody wants to blame the agents because they are not we're not able to fire them, right? We're not
Yeah.
able to make them accountable. So this thing about replacing us is just not feasible. It will
Yeah.
replace a lot of tasks. It will augment, enhance. Those are the words that the academia is using also.
Yeah.
Yes, right. Because the biggest thing that we can take advantage, like, I feel like we're still the critical thinker, right? I use it all the time, right? Like, look, like if something is difficult, right, and requires thinking and requires connecting dots, right? I said, well, that means that I'm still needed, right? The robot, the AI cannot do it, right?
Yep.
And then, right, but they are getting better, right? They are getting at
Mhm.
many different things, but like that's where we can benefit is really from automating the day-to-day tasks. Any others? If we have 2 minutes late. I just wanted to maybe just get your thoughts on any other tools that you guys are using currently that you would like to share with the audience, because I'm sure that it's often a question, right? Like, what do you guys specifically use day to day, right? That helps you automate task FP&A work-wise.
I mean, we're using, like I say, we use Claude at work, which is Anthropic's AI version. We use that a lot for like the ad hoc stuff. From an FP&A planning tool standpoint, we use Pigment. It's got some AI functionality for like different versioning of different types of forecasting, which they released probably a few months ago. And we're still exploring that. Like, how do we use that? How to use the different revenue forecasting methodologies they have with AI? Like, they have a machine learning one, and they have like one that is based on like historicals. Like, how do we explore all of that to like get multiple versions of forecasts, and then maybe at the end corroborate forecasts with that? We're in that tool because that's our primary FP&A tool, kind of like how Valkyrie uses Hyperion. Is what we're using. I also use I mentioned for the presentations, I've been using Gamma AI for like presentation, pulling together presentations. That's been helpful. And I mentioned the one for the note-taking granola. Been using that a lot as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, both of you. That's been exciting conversation. I really enjoy. I learn a lot from you both, and I'm sure that everybody else did the same. I will then return back to Brittany. Thank you so much for this great session.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for such an incredible session and for sharing those amazing insights. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be made available on demand following this event. Our next session will begin shortly, so please click on the join button that will appear on your screen to be redirected. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you all again.